Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. This is the fourth installment in the Quests series. The previous ones were landing a good job, finding and deepening a relationship, and finding peace of mind. You can find them both on my channel here on YouTube or on Psychology Today. You can just Google my name and you'll find it. Anyway, Marty Nemko. Anyway, here we turn to the practicalities and psychology of finding a good place to rent. As the previous installments did, this one begins with a composite first-person report from a Jeremy, which is based on my clients' and friends' experiences. Then I call out the embedded principles and practices. Hi, this is Jeremy again. I gotta tell you, I was scared when I left college. Now I had to find a place to live on my own. My parents said they'd help, but I really wanted to do it myself. I hated the idea of living with roommates. I did that enough in college. Yeah, sometimes it was nice to have company right there, but too often roommates were annoying, or at least distracting, like when my roommate had a midnight visitor. But I couldn't afford even a studio apartment in a decent area, and I was a little, perhaps irrationally, nervous about living in a gritty neighborhood. So I decided to set my sights on finding, in a nice neighborhood, a basement or attic apartment or backyard cottage. I started by looking at the ads, but the few places I visited were dumps. I could see why someone would need to pay to advertise that place for rent. Also, I figured if a place was a good deal, it would have gone to someone whom the landlord already knew. Or if it was advertised and a good deal, there'd be a zillion applicants, and I'm no great shakes. My income could only barely justify even modest rent. So with all that in my little brain, I decided to avoid the crowds and instead put up flyers on telephone poles in areas I'd love to live in. In that flyer, I tried to put myself in the homeowner's shoes. By the way, in addition to those telephone pole things, it could be there are these little neighborhood, ultra-local group forums, and you could do that as well. Anyway, in the flyer or on the forum, I tried to put myself in the homeowner's shoes. What could I say that, while honest, would make the homeowner at least want to talk with me? So here's what I wrote. Responsible, employed, college graduate, seeks basement or attic apartment or backyard cottage. Can pay $1,000 a month, but, and inserts a little humor here, in my defense, I'm low maintenance. Speaking of which, I'd be happy to help out with gardening, cleaning out cluttered areas and such. Should we talk? My phone number is. At the top, I put a picture of me that reveals the nice guy I try to be. At the bottom, I put a dozen tear-offs with my name and phone number. Then I made 25 copies and stapled them to the best located telephone poles. I got a grand total of 1 response, but that turned out to be enough. For the interview, I put on a collared shirt and reminded myself to be the person I described in my flyer. Surprisingly, it's kind of rubbed off permanently. I think I've become a little better person from having said I was. Weird. Anyway, the place was nice. It was just 1 room and a bathroom, but she let me share the kitchen, and it was in a good neighborhood. And she said if I do a little gardening, like pull weeds and trim shrubs, I could have it for $900 a month. Yeah. Okay, here are the embedded lessons. Seek under-the-radar housing. Good and well-priced housing is usually rented before it gets on the market. And if it makes it to the open market, you're competing with hordes. By putting housing wanted flyers, or, as I said, a little ad in an ultra-local online group, in desirable single-family neighborhoods, you can often avoid the madding crowd. Some homeowners have a rentable attic, basement, or backyard cottage, but hadn't gotten around to renting it or hadn't considered renting it. But if a good person asks, like you, they could be open to it. This has implications beyond housing. For example, you'd like to do a weird project at work. You'd be surprised at how often a reasoned ask yields a yes. Fundraisers who ask for amounts that put a gulp in their throat are often surprised at the results. Asking that seemingly unattainable person out on a date may get you that dream date. So the corollary takeaway here, as long as it's ethical and even borderline reasonable, ask for what you want. Another potential takeaway from the Jeremy story is that creativity may help you get the unattainable. Jeremy wanted to live in a primo neighborhood, unaffordable, but he took the time to think about how he might get a place below market rate. With his creative flyer approach, he'd be appealing to people who otherwise weren't thinking of renting out their place, and therefore they'd be less likely than the typical landlord to insist on top dollar. After all, the homeowner had been living with getting $0. The next potential takeaway is their strengths in numbers. Of course, the chances of one flyer yielding good and affordable housing are small, even though dozens of people may see the flyer. But if you put up 25 flyers, you of course greatly improve your chances, and it only takes 1. That mindset, of course, applies more broadly. For example, if you're a salesperson, job seeker, or looking for a great relationship. And finally, a final possible takeaway from Jeremy's story is that claiming an attribute makes you more likely to develop it. Jeremy's telling the homeowner that he's a responsible person makes him more likely to be responsible, because unless he's an out-and-out liar, he's speaking of his intention, and that creates some commitment bias. Besides, to then be irresponsible would make him a liar, and few people feel good about being one. For many people, getting the right housing can be key not only to affordability and safety, especially in the COVID era when we're spending so much time at home, that better-than-expected housing can boost your happiness and sense of well-being. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments and especially like it if you hit the share button below. Share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. In any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.